Okay. So,
Right there. No, it's not.
where is this? You're so thing. Catch me. Back.
So if you said you had a pickup truck, I go, no, I'm doing that. I'll take him, but we closed the van, we moved it over to, Gaskin's Fantastic Finds,
Okay,
get it out of the generous
all right.
opportunity I had here, but I closed it because we just, we gotta catch up. People have been overloading us.
It's all little to the lady down.
That's good.
St. Vincent to
Yes.
old.
Yes, old.
Yeah,
And we got checks, but I got slowed down with my surgery, so it's like, okay,
Okay. Good to know.
I will take what you have.
Sure. Okay.
Okay, 7 o'clock. Open the meeting. Take roll call.
You still on?
Oh, here. That used to be first.
She's quiet.
Mr. Carroll, Mr. Brindle,
President.
Ms. Lathrop. Here. Ms. Gaskin, Mr. Brady.
Here.
That's 5, constitutes quorum. I can't do it. So we're all,
Consideration of the minutes from the March 25th. Those long minutes.
Long minutes.
I think you got.
I move to accept.
Have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion passes. Normally we have a comment period here, so I don't see any public. But if there's any comments from our members. I had two. One is I appreciate the training that was offered, and I don't know who put it all together, but how much you had to do with it or whatever. But it was, I thought very good. I just wish we had gotten more interface with the other towns. Because we all kind of sat in our little groups, and so you never, I mean, like the Portsville, I could tell, because they had the Portsville shirts. But the other people, I didn't know really where they were from, although we did do some interaction with them during the discussion periods. I think it would have been nice if we could have shared a little more, and, so for next time, if it happens again, I would recommend that. And the other thing was, and I don't know, on the minutes, you show who's on and timing, the town council ones, it says
Oh.
2025.
yeah, those need to be up.
So I don't know if they have to be
They've been reappointed. It just needs
reappointed
to be
and just
updated.
updated, sheets just needs updated or
Yeah.
whatever. That was it.
Good catch.
So I know that was one of the things that came out of the training, actually. It has to be on there. So. Okay, so that's all I had.
So really, tonight is it's just a work session, talk about legislative updates from this year. There's several things that went through in the State House this year, and just want to give you guys an overview of things that affect Plan Commission, and that, so you have an idea of where we're at, and there's some things we're gonna have to take action on, and that, and then we need some guidance from you on what things. So that's really kind of our agenda for the work session tonight, is just to kind of go through a snapshot of the more important things that impact us. So Senate enrolled Act 179 has to do with shooting ranges, and it makes shooting ranges and sporting goods stores permitted by right. We have to change our ordinance so that retail sporting goods stores are allowed in all commercial zoning districts, and indoor shooting ranges in all commercial, industrial, and agricultural zoning districts. So we have no choice. It's a have to. So our action on this one is gonna be to amend our use tables within the zoning ordinance this year. Yes, House Bill 1150, this one,
Do we have any, or does the state have any rules or associated with like indoor shooting ranges, like what they have to, safety wise and all that, or do we have to have that?
no, a lot of that's taken out of our hands, it happens at the state level.
Okay.
For those types of things, so for us, it's really a use and what those development standards are for the buildings.
Okay.
For where they're at, as far as licensing and all those other permits and whatever.
Standards form or a state.
A lot of that's it. Yep,
They might have had complaints from some or somebody on,
something somewhere happened and now we have a bill that,
Yeah.
they're allowed by right, everywhere but residential districts essentially. There is some definitions within that bill, so we'll make sure that our ordinance incorporates those definitions. And that, so that one, we're in compliance, but also that when we're evaluating things, we're using, the state's criteria.
Actually, I think there's one in downtown Greek. Possibly.
Yeah. Main area.
Yeah, right, just a block north of, boy,
Yep. So, House Bill 1150, local regulations, so there's quite a few things in this one. But the two that probably, come into play maybe a little bit with Plan Commission, are that we cannot treat, vehicles differently based on their fuel source, so, we don't do this already, so there's really nothing that we need to do here, but just moving forward as we're seeing more with battery vehicles and alternative fuels and things like that, just knowing a motor vehicle is a motor vehicle, the fuel source, you can't do anything that treats them differently. The one that does affect us is that if you're within 5 miles of the end of a runway for a publicly owned airport, you have to adopt an airspace overlay ordinance, and so we will have to adopt an airspace overlay ordinance. There's not much details on what that is, so we will look at what, Hancock County has an airport overlay, so we'll probably look at what they're doing and use that as a guide, but again, that's something that you'll see coming this year, because we are within 5 miles of Mount Comfort Airport.
I would think Hancock
Well,
County already has some.
They do.
End of,
Yeah.
okay. 5 miles at the end of the.
The end of the road.
Okay, but not straight out from, no, we're.
Yeah. No matter how you draw that line, we're within 5
Yeah,
miles.
well, if it went straight out of the east-west, I don't think we would be in it.
Yeah,
If it's 5
There
miles from the
wouldn't-
end,
yeah,
if it's their turning, we would be,
Yep.
because they come over our house all the time.
yep, so, so we'll look at Hancock counties and consider either making modifications to it that are appropriate for us or whatever, but that's something we'll see later this year.
It's harder than the shooting range. Oops, I'm sorry. we're
These
being-
are different bills.
Forget that.
We are the 13th, just a reminder. Okay, so House Enrolled Act 1161, local government matters. This one really had to do with board of commissions. This has to do with the appointing authority, and in the past, most of our boards and commissions, you served, you could only be removed with cause. And that has now been changed, that our boards and commissions serve at the will of the appointing authority. So if you're appointed by the town council or the town council president, you serve at their will and can be removed. This probably doesn't impact us very much, but we'll review the rules of procedure for the planning commission, the ordinance, and just make sure if there is any references about that we come into compliance. Just want you to be aware of that. House Enrolled Act 1210, Department of Local Government and Finance. This bill has a ton of information in it, the things that I think matter from a zoning plan commission standpoint are that communities are prohibited from regulating privately owned residential property from being used as rentals. Except for short-term rentals. So some communities last year adopted regulations about rental communities and how much rentals in their neighborhood. Those have been overturned with this bill. So that is something that we cannot regulate or prohibit rental versus for sale. We can address short-term rentals. We currently don't have anything in our ordinance on short-term rentals. But should we wish to go down that road, we'll just make sure that we comply with the definitions and what's in the state code.
Yeah, like what's the definition of short term?
Yeah, so
Is
that's
that 1
really,
month or 6
it's
months?
kind of the
12 months?
Airbnb
Yeah,
type
okay,
situations.
okay.
Yeah, this is, short-term rentals typically get used for like Airbnb.
This stops HOAs from limiting, well,
So this is local communities. This isn't specific to the HOAs, but I know there were some other bills addressing a lot of HOA things and it may, don't know where it landed with those. They were very active this session, on a lot of topics. So the big one that really impacts us is House and Rule Act 1001 Housing Matters. So this bill started off, with a whole lot more in it than kind of where we landed. So I've got a few slides for you guys on this one and we'll kind of talk through what's in it, some of the relevant things that we have to do to comply. And then, again, we'll need some direction from you on a couple of steps. So in the bill, we are now required to do a housing progress report every year. It's due January 1st. Of every year, starting in January of 27. We have to use 2025 as our baseline year, so we have to pull information from last year that we may or may not have been tracking because we may or may not have been allowed to track it. And moving forward, so we've started working through where to get some of that information that we haven't necessarily had in the past. We also are required to do an ordinance audit of our zoning, subdivision control, unified development ordinance, if you have that instead of zoning, subdivision control, and other regulations of that nature, and hold a public hearing on that audit. And we have to do that by the end of the year. And then we have to report on that audit to the state, particularly to the Legislative Service Agency.
Is that the audit on the report of what we have to send in?
There's a public hearing and a report we have to do on the audit that we do on our.
Audit.
I will get into
Okay.
I will get into it. This is your
Okay.
summary, this is your summary slide, and then we'll kind of dive into a few of these that have a lot, more meat to them. Fees for building permits, planning commissions, BZAs, all of that, were touched on this session, so we'll get into that in a minute. And then, addressing complete applications, so when an application is considered complete, which for you guys don't usually see that happens more on a staff level, but that's when, the developer, once we consider it complete, their vesting, begins, and so which set of ordinances kind of apply at the time. And then also some language in there, reiterating the fact that anything that's ministerial, if ordinances are met, it must be approved. Impact fees, and then also there's a lot of definitions in the bill. So the housing progress report, so we now have to track the number of housing proposals that are submitted, the number of those proposals that are approved, the number of those proposals that were denied, and if they're denied, we have to say why. So even if they applied for the wrong thing in our system, we are gonna have to track that and report that somebody applied for the wrong application or permit. And then a total number of net new residential housing. So this is going to be calculated by taking the numbers we just went through for what was submitted and approved and subtracting out anything that was demolished, anything non-residential that got converted, any units combining. So if a duplex becomes a single home, all those types of things. And so we have to determine a net new number of housing units. that are created each year. And so most of those things are things that would require a permit, but there's some of those conversions and things can sometimes get tricky.
So is that like when they come to us for a do subdivision, or is that individual?
Oh, it's everything. It's not just a subdivision, it's also at the building permit stage. If they're putting an apartment above their garage, if somebody's demolishing their house because there was a fire, if we're taking a duplex or, a historic home that maybe got divided into 4 apartments and taking it back to single family. It's everything that has to do with housing and I'm trying to isolate a specific number of net new units. The goal, as you'll see as we go through this and the audit, is to create more housing in Indiana. That is the state legislature's goal. And then, so the next one then is total number of lots entitled. So entitled would be when they get their zoning. And then number of lots that have been platted. So that's when they record that secondary plat. And then issued a building permit and received their C of O. So again, we have to track housing at every stage in the process. Any discrepancies in those numbers, we have to justify. We have to track the calendar days that we're spending, as a unit processing housing proposal applications. So how long it's taking for things to go through processes is a concern. And so that's where that comes into play. The average and median, oh, go ahead.
Well, and then if the developer's stalling, is that gonna reflect on us, or is that something we can say, or?
So it kind of depends. Since this is new for everybody, we think that, the state will create a report where we go in and fill in the blanks, so it all depends on how things are worded.
Okay.
So what we're gonna try to do is on our end, be tracking how many days in each like step in the process, so that we can track our time, but then also if it sits, in a developer's hands, if they maybe brush the gun a little bit and apply before things were ready, then that can be reflected as well. But it really just depends if there's a standard form and they just think how many days start to finish, it's not gonna reflect anything. If we're doing it and we can break it out, then it can be described. So it's really hard to tell.
Sounds like something a lot of these planning contractors will put together a database to sell to the communities.
Everybody, I mean, it's just like Joel said, everybody is just kind of waiting and trying to find out. We have to report to LSA, which is the Legislative Service Association. Agency rather, and then IHCDA, which is the Housing and Community Development Authority. So it's been indicated there will be a form that we'll have to fill out. But
Seems like one of these companies would come up with some kind of way for all the towns to track the stuff, and
they're all trying to get a grasp on it as well.
but rather than have each town come up with their own spreadsheet, which makes no sense.
Yeah.
Probably ought to be somebody to.
We're all kind of talking and just like, okay, how are you, I've been talking with the Hancock County planners, like, okay, how are you tracking this? How are you tracking that? Where are you going for that source? Because the other thing is you wanna make sure you're pulling your source data from the same sources, so we have apples to apples. And because if we're not careful, that can skew things as well. So, there's a lot of communication, a lot of people trying to figure this out, right now. We also have to track the average and median home sales prices, and the year-over-year change. This is sales prices, so this is gonna be new and existing. So we are going to essentially have to get the sales disclosures from each county every year and compile this and figure out the average and the medians. In Hancock County, they have a GIS layer, so we'll be able to export an Excel spreadsheet. In Marion County, they don't. And so we're working through how to get that access to that information, because that sales disclosure is gonna have the most accurate number. Right now in our permits, we ask like the value of homes and the values of structures in that. But that sales disclosure is gonna be that final price.
What actually sells for.
Yep, and that's the number that, we believe the state is looking for. We also have to track the median rent prices and year-over-year averages on that one. So you guys know this from our, trainings over the years. We're not allowed to ask about home prices, and we're not allowed to ask about rentals, and we're not allowed to make decisions on these things. So this is data we don't track, that we now have to track. The rental one, we haven't quite figured that one out yet, short of calling each apartment complex and finding out what their average rents are. So we're still working on that one. Or using census data, which is gonna be very dated and not really.
I'd be interested because, you know, you're like the apartments, they have 1 bedroom, 2 bedroom, 3 bedroom.
Yep.
So do you average all those together
Yep.
or do they?
I think you, again, it depends on if they give us a form or it's a report of our own. So we're trying to,
Single families.
it's all gonna be hard to track. So we're trying our best to, find all the sources we can and start collecting now, create our 2025 baseline numbers. And start lining up where we're gonna be pulling things for 26, since we have to report it by January 1. Right now, we think our reporting year is probably December 1 to December 1. But again, we get a report from the state, they give us something different, we may have to pivot, so we're trying to. Because, you know, you can't pull everything on the 31st. And be turning it around the same day to comply. So we'll see how that shakes out and, you know, we'll comply, we'll make it work. And then,
It's interesting, they use the term median.
yep. Yes, yes,
For the other one, it's average and median, but for rent, it's the median.
Yeah.
Okay.
yes. So I think it's very interesting, some of the data sets. We have to track the number of residential dwelling units constructed and occupied. So again, this is gonna be permits and occupancy permits by type. So literally single family, apartments, duplex, triplex, quad, townhome, every different unit type, and we'll have to account for. And we've already started setting up some of those tables, so we've got last year's data. And we track, through our planning commission cases, a lot of that. So the good news is we have some of this data already for the last 5 years compiled. And it won't be too bad. It's some of the new information that we haven't tracked in the past. The last one, which is maybe in my opinion, one of the more complicated ones, is the percentage of new residential dwelling units constructed that are listed at 80%, 81 to 119%, and 120% of the unit's median income. So there's a AMI, average median income for the area, for the metropolitan statistical area. HUD has all that, so that's where everyone's gonna go pull that from for the area, and that'll give us our income, and then we'll have to figure out those numbers for 80%, 120%. And then they have tables for rents and for home prices of what those numbers then are for each of those as it relates to housing, that if you're at 80% AMI, what your housing price should be, according to HUD's tables. Same thing with rents. And so we'll pull those, and then we'll have to take all the data we have on rents and sales prices and figure out percentages into those categories. So,
Interesting, 'cause, I mean, you could have a really diverse median income, I mean, or incomes.
yeah,
Which could sway the.
yeah, so with it being at more of a metropolitan statistical area, it's most of central Indiana, so when I looked, I think the AMI is like 102 or something like that thousand. So, the numbers, I think a lot of people assume are gonna be really low, but they're not necessarily.
So it's not a restricted area, it's It's a
Yeah,
very
yeah.
broad area. that-
Again, unless they give us a different source to pull it from in their report, oftentimes you go pull this from HUD. And they have tables for all this, and it considers what's affordable and attainable and all those things. And then we just have to take all the tables that we can pull with sales disclosures and rents, and then put them into that. So that is the housing progress report that we will have to do. Once we do the first one end of the year, what we'll probably do is create a dashboard on the website starting next year. We're required to put all this information on our website anyway, so we'll create somewhat of a dynamic dashboard that puts some of this into graphs and pie charts and things like that, that make it a little bit easier to understand for the average person. There are some communities in other states where they're required to pull this information, so I've already kind of looked at what some of them are doing for how they put it on the website and kind of identified who I would, the ones that I think maybe make sense for us to look to in that, so. So yeah, that's the housing progress reports.
So other states are doing the same thing.
Yeah, so like California, Oregon. So there's several states that have had this type of housing reform in the past, and have had to pull. Have had to do this for a few years now, so we can look to them a little bit as some examples. It's not identical, but it is comparable and similar, so. We're trying to, as much as we can, look at kind of what others are doing in this realm and try to set Cumberland up for success. We don't wanna get a black eye for not doing things properly. The ordinance audit, however, as much as the data will be a headache, data's data, and that'll be great. The ordinance audit is probably gonna be the most difficult thing for us this year, and not because it's hard, but there's so much in it. We're gonna need some guidance from you guys just on how you want us to pursue. So what this audit does, we have to review our zoning subdivision control ordinance standards to determine how they're impacting the state's goal of increasing housing development. So that's the purpose of the audit. We have to hold a public hearing and submit our report by January 1. So what we have, the factors we have to review our ordinances against and put into this report and present at this hearing are providing for higher density development of duplexes, triplexes, and fourplexes in areas designated for single family homes. So you have a single, like, you have a single family zoning district and you only allow single family. What they want to know is how we're, is whether or not we're allowing these higher density within any of those districts. Constructing other housing types, including accessory, ADUs as accessory dwelling units. So this is your granny flat, the backyard, tiny home, apartment over a garage, old carriage house. Type of thing. Adaptive reuse of commercial buildings for residential. So especially in large cities where you have a lot of office buildings that have become vacant or have significant vacancies since COVID, there's been a shift to look at converting those commercial spaces into residential. Let's see what else. Increasing the allowable floor area ratio in multifamily areas, waiving or eliminating regulations such as requirements for garage size and placement, steeper roof pitch, minimum lot size and square footage, greater setbacks, off-street parking, design standards that restrict or prohibit the use of code compliant products or property height limitations. So again, we're gonna have to evaluate the ordinance against this and identify if we're going to waive, eliminate, and if not, kind of why. review our impact fee zones with the advisory committee for improvements, and I'll talk about that in a minute. Streamlining or shortening the permitting process and timelines, including through one-stop shops, parallel processing permits, and things. They want to see processes cut by 15 or more days wherever possible.
But back to the waiving and eliminating regulations.
Mm-hmm.
So like right now, we have, pitch requirements.
Yep.
We're saying we couldn't have any pitch requirements, so you can have flat roof houses.
So what I think this is for us to review those items and determine if we think by waiving or eliminating them, we would increase housing units and whether or not we would change our ordinances. If not, why? So nothing in here is necessarily requiring or prohibiting, but we are required to audit our ordinances with the assumption that we will make changes to our ordinances to meet the goal of increasing housing development across the state.
And this is where during the public hearing, developers could come in and say, hey,
Yep.
this roof pitch and this
Yep.
whatever is preventing me from building houses I want to build.
Yep.
Now I could build more if you let me have a flat roof
Yes,
Or sell them cheaper.
or,
Yes.
or whatever.
yes.
So that's a tricky one.
Yeah,
That's
it is, and one of those subdivision up against a past subdivision that was approved, it could lower property values. I mean, it could do a lot of damage over time, a lot of damage. But they'll figure it out and then they'll say, oh my gosh, we made a mistake.
So is that something that say we have to kind of decide, but is that something we should involve some of the current developers that we
So-
have? In,
I think that's a great question. I have a slide
okay,
with some options for you guys.
okay,
So let's keep going here and then we can kind of talk through how we proceed with some of this. The use of tax abatements to enable higher density and mixed income communities. That's really a town council thing more so than a planning commission. And then donating vacant land for affordable housing development. So again, the theme here is creating more housing as quickly as possible. So our reports, again, the report itself has to include also whether or not we've invested in a housing study since 2021. And if so, we have to provide a copy of that. It also includes if, the region has completed a housing study. And we do have housing studies that we have one, and then there's a regional one that the Metropolitan Planning Organization did. And then minutes from our public hearing. So when we do this public hearing, Hannah, it's gonna need to be kind of verbatim. So we may want to use one of our AI transcribing things to help us with that one. And then a description of any zoning and subdivision control and amendments that were made because of that public hearing and review. And then we have to include descriptions of how the factors listed above were used to support increased housing. So our actions that will be
Seems like
required.
our missing middle thing we did.
Yeah,
Really,
definitely.
I mean, it's kind of a positive
Absolutely.
toward what they're doing here.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we'll have to be really careful because not only could we get in trouble by the state, we could get sued by a developer.
That, and this is also at the federal level, this is being discussed.
Oh, okay.
So honestly, whether it comes at the federal level or the state level, consensus really is that this is coming back to us. So this is an opportunity to gather data, to review and evaluate, and then depending on results of those things, more than likely actions will be taken next year. And then,
I could also see some of the developers that we did the PUDs with coming back and wanting to do amendments to their PUDs.
I mean, potentially. So, okay, so for this one, we have to hold a public hearing, we need to identify amendments that we would support, the goal of increasing housing development, those that we might support doing, and then, make sure that we complete the report and have that submitted by end of the year.
Is that something that we do at our meeting, or is it something that it does in town council, or? Or just staff does?
Well, yeah, so the hearing itself, I think we're all figuring that out, but because of some of the factors, my guess is it's gonna be a standalone outside of a plan commission meeting and more of a joint plan commission town council. Because ultimately, changes to the ordinance require council. But you guys are advisory to them, so my guess is we'll probably wanna do it as a joint hearing session to hear the information.
Do you think our missing middle housing ordinance would be something that they would embrace or like?
I think it helps us.
It helps us, yeah.
I don't think it solves the issues for us.
Right.
Yeah.
This report, January 1st, is it for the difference between 2025 and 2026?
So this report is for our ordinances as they sit today. So this is that one's more of a 26.
Okay, but the one earlier.
The earlier one is 25 and 26.
Would we actually have to change them by then, or?
It's not very clear, so
Well, you're supposed to have all of 2026 results by January 1st of 27.
that's right.
It just doesn't, okay,
I'm keeping my mouth shut,
yeah, I
so
know.
I don't get in trouble.
I'll wait till that.
We can start bringing Tylenol to meetings.
You got here most,
Okay, so then fees, were also, modified this year, so. Starting in July of 26, July 1 and 26. In the past, when you adopt a fee ordinance, you have to wait 90 days before you can start charging those fees. That will now be 180 days, which is 6 months. So when you change your fees. We also will only be able to change our fees once every 5 years. Once every 5 years. Our costs can only cover our costs to administer, which is how they're supposed to be now, but. We're gonna have to justify our fees, probably more like utilities have to do a rate study. We're probably gonna have to have some fee justifications. And so we've actually already started the process to evaluate ours.
Plus you gotta figure 5 years of inflation.
Yeah.
How do you do that?
Crystal ball. And then from the clerk treasurer's office, a special fund has to be set up so that the fees for permits, planning and zoning applications go into that, and it cannot revert to the general fund. So it has to stay there, and then all of our costs associated with the development have to be paid out of that fund, which for us, we're not making profit, so that should, so far in what I've done in our quick analysis just today on some of our fees, we're probably not even charging enough. So, I think we'll look at whether or not we need to adjust our fees, in the next month or so, and then, and work with our financial advisor to do a fee justification, and that just so that we're, hopefully in good shape if we do need to adjust. that.
Yeah, we have to have that done by July.
To be under the old rules, I believe we have to do it by the end of June.
Okay,
If, starting in July, it's these rules.
okay, yeah, that's kind of.
Whether or not we can do it in that time frame is yet to be seen,
Okay,
but that's what we're looking at. So this is the complete applications ministerial. In this instance, it really specifies when we determine application is complete And then that establishes the vesting, or that's the rules from the code books that we follow. So if your ordinance changes after they file that application and it's determined to be complete, they follow the old rules, not the new rules. If they had filed their application and it were incomplete, or they file an application after the rules change, then they're in the new rules. So it's a vesting thing for the builders. This is really how it's been, I think, but this just really reiterates, and clarifies exactly where that is. And then that takes effect. And then it has very strong language in there, reiterating the fact that ministerial actions, if they meet code, have to be approved. So that's your development plans, that's your plats, it's building permits.
Essentially, we've been doing that anyway, haven't we? I mean,
Yes. Yeah. But I think just, again, they're using strong language. So it's worth noting. So in this case, we'll make sure that our process is clearly defined, when an application is considered complete. We already do, but we'll just make sure that we're good there. And then also look through kind of our administrative parts and just make sure it's clear. Again, back to the completeness, but also kind of that ministerial action, as we move forward.
so who's the enforcing activity of this? I mean.
We
I
get
mean,
sued.
who's-
We make a mistake, we get sued. In the county court, and it could
By
go-
the state?
the developer, the state, any aggrieved party.
But I mean, if we don't meet certain of these dates or something or whatever.
They're looking at revoking funding. If we don't meet deadlines, or we can't charge our fees. There's one, if you miss a deadline, you have to refund fees. So, missing a deadline isn't advisable. Impact fees, so they changed, when we do an impact fee for like roads or parks, they changed the membership of the advisory committee a little bit. This is the committee that's established to study establishing that impact fee. So it now requires a minimum of 5 members with 40% of the membership representing the building, real estate community. And that, we have to choose members from those that are recommended to us by the statewide trade associations for single family builders, multifamily builders, and realtors. So when we establish a committee, they will give us recommendations of people to serve on that committee, and we will have to select from that group,
2 of them.
one from each category.
So we
So-
we can't find those people?
Nope, so so we can choose 2 out of the 5.
Well, it says 40%. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, 2 of the
Yeah,
5.
40%, but it says it has to represent, and we have to have the 3 industries.
And a realtor.
Mhm.
Okay, so that's 60%.
Yeah, it's really 60.
So you can have more members than 5.
Yeah,
Okay. Gotcha.
yeah. It's tricky the way that it is.
Yeah, I hear you.
And then the infrastructure, in the impact fee applies to you, that for development, has to be within 5 miles of the project area. Cumberland, we're small, we're compact, we should be fine. But Hancock County just adopted a park impact fee ordinance. This will impact them. Cause the county is larger than that, so, larger communities, this will be a bigger concern.
And those things could still be like what we do, like waived if like on the park impact fee.
Yeah,
If the developer, says, well, build the park and donate it to the
Yep.
city, then that's still waivable.
yeah, so that's it, we've already set that up in our ordinances and, it's still an option. So then there's several items that they provided definitions for that, weren't there previously or were different previously. So we'll just have to make sure our ordinances, use the same definitions, that the code does. They're pretty standard, but just making sure that we incorporate that. So our next steps, for the housing, so here we go for the audit. We've kind of come up with 3 options for you guys, and really, it's up to you. There's probably more than 3 options. These just kind of seem to be the ones that probably make the most sense. So option 3, I'm gonna start there, is if the planning commission would like to go through all of these things page by page. We can do that in a series of work sessions, probably like 4 to 6. It's gonna be labor intensive. To talk through do the audit, topics, and then identify potential changes. Option 1 would be staff will compare all the projects over the last 5 years with our existing standards, identify where there are differences in our current code with those PUD standards, make recommendations for changes based on that data. And then the planning commission can have one work session, identify any amendments that you would want to make based on that. That won't fully address every item in the list of factors, but it will get us to what we've been approving compared to what our code is and whether or not there's things we should consider. Option 2 is probably the one that I recommend. And this would be for staff to basically to do number 1, like we just talked about, but also to take all those factors that were identified and do a complete analysis for you, recommending ways that you can shave time off our timelines, code changes, things like that. And then ultimately, it's still up to the planning commission to direct us on whether or not there are amendments you want to make. I think those are our best options. We could reach out to the Builders Association and others to participate. They will also be at the hearings. So there's.
We're gonna deal with them one or the other.
So we got 2 things going on. We got the Unigo transition thing, and we've got all this going on at the same time.
Yeah, I wish those were the only 2 things going on.
Well, but I mean, they're.
But yeah, so separate, so we have those 3 options at the same time. We have an RFP out, tomorrow, I believe, is the deadline for submittals for update. Well, not just an update, a new zoning subdivision control ordinance. We'll probably go to a unified development code, which combines the 2. It'll kind of be split into 2 phases, with the first phase focused on Unigov changes, and then anything we identify this year that has to be changed due to the legislative things. And then next year will be kind of the rest of the code. It's not quite ideal, but we're also, we don't really have a choice.
I'd like to make a motion to adopt option 2.
So when they're looking at it, you have to look at the Marion County stuff and the existing Cumberland stuff at the same time. Right, because what they have is gonna be different than what we have.
Yep. And we don't have the records for the Marion County stuff.
Does Indy
Yes.
they're gonna handle over? Just what fun to.
Mhm.
Maybe we need to ask our legislators to have Marion County supply that.
Why?
Stir the pot. a little bit.
No.
It's not brilliant.
There, I was gonna say, there's a lot of things in play right. There's lots of ways to get to where we need to go. On these things, so yeah, I think yeah, we have the Unigo things, and then we have the three options for kind of the audit and public hearing.
Do you need a decision on those options today?
I would like to just have consensus. This is a work session, so we don't have to take a formal vote. But that way we can start preparing it. I don't want to be here in November or December holding a public hearing on this. I'd rather try to get through this, spring, summer, and then late summer, early fall, we can have our hearing, have a plan.
I like option two.
I would say option two, but I mean, if there's anything personally I could do to help with that. I mean, since I've been around for 5 years, so, and maybe some of us other, have
Yeah.
the time. To maybe help with some of that review,
Okay.
Give us.
Yeah.
A little piece of it or something
Okay.
might help.
Yeah.
Help you, because I
Yeah.
mean, you got a lot of work.
We can, we've started, part of it because of the Unigo transition, we had already started evaluating kind of all the developments we've approved in the last 5 years with our ordinances. And comparing what we've been approving with what our ordinances are, so we're lucky in that aspect that we do already have some thoughts on some of the things and some data, but yeah, there's certainly quite a bit in there for us to tackle, and then, it may even be worth just having a couple people to be a sounding board, and we can kind of talk through kind of ideas of where our thoughts are going on some things. I think there's some ways we can make our processes a little more efficient. Hopefully to speed up some time on this and things like that. So there may be some other things we can do.
Sorry,
Yeah, 'cause you're fine. It's hot here.
I'm not sick.
No, it's hot. in here.
How does this impact, as I mentioned Saturday, everything we've done, that's what. 5 years has been PUDs to the most part.
Yeah, so.
And so would it be looking at what we've approved
Yeah.
there and comparing it to what our standards are? What did they vary
Right,
from our standards?
yes,
And what I think one of the two people say, I think it's the lady.
Yeah.
Saturday. That like with some of these new regulations, we can't like require hardy plank. If you will, but I guess if they're coming as a PUD, you can still do that, right? So basically, it's looking at I want to say the general standards or the baseline standards.
yes,
But if they come in with a PUD,
Yeah.
we can still do what we've been doing
yes,
with respect to those.
for now,
Okay.
yes.
Until they stop doing it.
Who knows, yeah.
Yeah, so I think what you're gonna get is
Thank you.
probably some dynamic documents of just different options and that. I think there's gonna be a lot there for us to kind of digest. I think your question on Saturday, Ted, about, doing all the PUDs, like, is that a sign of a problem or whatever, was a really good question. And, I think in our case, it really is, our ordinances are dated. And we've known that, and intended to complete the comprehensive plan before we started doing ordinance amendments, so that we can make sure ordinance amendments align with the comprehensive plan, the way that, traditionally, it's done. This is just kind of forcing our hand a little bit to do things a little quicker, maybe not quite in the order that we normally would like to do that, but I think it's gonna be good conversations for us. We're also need to kind of talk through the community's values and what's important to the community, because I think we also have to take that into account with this goal of creating more housing and what standards.
Sounds like that ties right in with our current comp plan.
That is, yes,
I mean,
and they're
getting the input from the community there
that.
too.
Exactly, and we've been working with the consultants on the comp plan. On incorporating some of this into the comp plan. And then they're one of the firms that we've asked to provide a proposal for updating ordinances. So we've solicited from 3 firms, and so we'll see what we get back. So, but it's gonna be pretty labor intensive. And that initially we're like, oh, we can do this ourselves, and then we very quickly decided, no. I mean, yes, we could, but I think it's gonna be helpful to have somebody come in and do the ordinance, so we can focus more on that audit and working with you guys on what's important, you know, for the community to make sure we're representing what the residents expect.
Well, thank you for staying here so long in Cumberland, because listening to the lady there from HWC, she apparently changes jobs every couple of years, it sounds like.
Municipal planners, similar to town managers, it really is 5 or 6 years, and you just, especially in growing communities, and you move on because inevitably land use decisions are made that are unpopular, and the
Sounds like she went from Fortville to Pendleton or something,
Yeah.
and somewhere else, and now she's working for the contractors.
yeah, so.
But she was good.
Oh, yeah. I've worked with her on some other things, so.
In the, you know, the group that was on that side,
Mhm.
where
Hancock
were
County.
they from?
Hancock County.
Okay, that was Hancock County, so, okay.
Yes, you had Hancock County, you had Fortville, McCordsville, us, and I think there were some people from Greenfield as well. I don't know about Hancock.
Okay.
There were supposed to be, but,
Let's say, the only ones I could point out was the
the McCordsville.
Fortville, because they had insurance with Fortville.
Yeah, yep, so, but yeah, it was a really good session, and that, so. Okay. We kind of talked through the Q and A and that, we'll kind of start diving into the audit and, probably try to have an update in June, for the planning commission. I will tell you, your May agenda is full. We had 5 projects filed from May. So good things, 2 of them are secondary plats, so those are ministerial at the staff level, so you'll only have 3 public hearings. But you've got quite a bit on your agenda. And you've got more coming. So it's gonna be a busy year.
So do we have to, as we approve something, keep all this, do all this?
I think that we need to keep in mind the state's goals to create more housing and the things that they're wanting us to look at. I think that to ignore it will hurt us.
So these 5.
But if it's something that a developer submits, like, we can't say we want it to be less. You know, what I mean? You know.
Right. And our ordinance are what they are right now.
Yeah,
So it's, I think right now we're in a balancing act of community values, current ordinances, and the proposals being brought to us. And kind of weighing and balancing those things to determine kind of what is consistent with the comprehensive plan, is appropriate for the community, and also furthers the state's goals of creating more housing. And that, and if anybody wants to talk about any of this stuff in more detail, or you just wanna get a better understanding of where we think things are headed as far as some of these reports and things, feel free to reach out. We're happy to meet with you and talk through kind of where our current mindsets are. Again, we're having lots of conversations with other municipalities, legal counsel and that, just to make sure that we're complying and understanding the state legislature's intent and following through.
So my understanding of this whole thing was that it's being supported by certain groups to But it's like at what cost to have more housing? At what cost? To put all the way around, so it's, I probably would take the time to talk to you.
Yes.
Because.
Yeah, and right now, I think that's where it's on us to be good stewards for our community. And really stay true to what are our community's values, who is Cumberland? What does the comprehensive plan say? Those are our policy documents and guiding documents, and that's, I think, our starting place.
I think when
We
Ted
also
said on
know
the
when-
PUD, I said if we still have power with the PUDs. Okay, I'm just gonna interject this because this is something that crossed my mind. We go up and down 700 a lot, Carol. All right, you see Marion and what they're doing. And you see, then, there was this, oh my gosh, we're gonna have Rockbridge in our backyard. Us that live right there. And it's beautiful, really. It
is.
totally takes away, they're doing, and Taylor Morrison is great, but Lanier, whatever, they're building up. It's still under their name, I think, where they started. So I was saying just the other day, when people come forward to remonstrate or whatever and saying, you don't understand, all you gotta do is drive up, see what they aren't doing and what we are doing. And that's, at least we're trying to make it look worthy of what Cumberland can
They're
do.
putting the rest of our subdivisions to shame, actually.
Right, and I go, you go drive, you go, okay, no patio, the vinyl's already flapping. And it's sad because you can see the difference, and that's what occurred to me, I thought, if I could say one thing at a planning commission meeting, and when there's somebody remonstrating, go, you just have to drive the streets, the roads to see what we're doing compared to what everybody else says. And that we are not asking favors, we're trying to get commitments. As I was accused of, I think Ted was accused of in that big Facebook thing. We wanted favors. Yeah, we do. We want nice housing for people.
Except they're sure stirring up the dust when this wind isn't helping.
Yeah.
They're moving dirt like crazy over there. And it's so dry, man.
But no, I said, I think
Clean it every other
30-foot
day.
buffer should be on every development.
I
No, they're doing a great job, and despite us going, our backyard,
They even put pansies out yesterday.
yeah.
I
So
got pansy beds.
Taylor Morrison has proved itself to be that award winning. I mean, I really
I
am.
looked on Zillow or whatever, and yeah, their houses, they're building are in the mid 300s. That's what they're
Easily.
asking for.
So did we get a consensus?
I think so.
The consensus
Yeah.
was to go with option 2, and then we'll give you guys an update in, I might be doing something wrong.
You just said, okay.
Thank you. Sorry, people watching. I shouldn't be allowed to have the.
You're fine.
Yeah. Yeah, so, it's gonna be a process, and it's not gonna be an easy process. So,
Is the state's goal more housing in general or more affordable housing?
so everything they've done says more housing, but I think if you look at the data we have to pull, price is definitely a concern. And in their defense, what they're hearing is everything's so expensive, housing's expensive, gas prices are expensive, taxes are expensive, everything is just really expensive right now for various reasons. I think from the cities and towns perspective, one of our concerns has been we're trying to apply a one size fits all approach to a very complicated issue that, depending on where your community's located, its size and things like that, the issues can be more dynamic. And so it's just
What will be,
concerning. And so, I mean, in the legislature's defense, they're collecting data, they're fact finding at this point. And so what we provide will potentially guide what happens next.
I know Ted asked that question earlier, and I don't know if I heard it, the answer, but like, who's overseeing this totally? Is there a committee within a committee within a committee? Is
So-
there a monkey
Yeah.
mucks?
So all our reporting has to go to the to LSA, Legislative Services Agency, so that they prepare the bills for the state legislature. So they're reporting to the House of Representatives and the state Senate.
So actually, they're getting more work.
Oh, yeah.
They're gonna be down, they're gonna be hit hard with,
And then some of
everybody.
the reporting also goes to IHCDA, the Indiana Housing and Community Development Authority, to track as well. And then, I mean, the Builders Association and Realtors Association have been collecting data, routinely for a long time, so I'm sure that they're providing data, as well. And that ultimately, decision-making items, approvals or disapprovals, that accountability goes through the court system.
What would be interesting is as a year or two goes by, when we look at the data, these developers that don't have to comply as much, what are they selling their houses for? I know that's gonna be hard to compare because inflation and prices go up and depending on the supply of materials and all that, but I have a feeling that anyway, I have a feeling that it's not really gonna work. But I might be wrong, but
I don't
let's,
see-
us having the information is gonna be really interesting.
Absolutely.
And how the legislators interpret it, and then maybe towns can get together or whatever and say, hey,
That's why it's important to make sure we're all pulling kind of from the same sources, so we really are comparing apples to apples. And that from the comparison, when you start comparing and compiling data.
it'd be
It's
interesting.
gonna be very, yeah, I agree, it's gonna be very interesting. I'm gonna
I
see
think
what
it's also
happens.
the fact, like, I mean, if I think back on all those exact numbers, that we've approved. What, close to 1,500 potential homes that aren't started yet. They haven't even broken the first bit of ground yet. So, I mean, we've done our part. And some of that's been over a year, as I recall. I mean, it's been close to a year anyway.
Some of them are, in the ground and some of them are coming before you.
Right, but I'm saying, if you want, if the state wants to get this hurried up, maybe they need to look at. Some of the other things that they're doing to support those developers, because. Say, we've approved it and we're just waiting. Cause, Cumberland North hasn't broken ground, the apartments haven't broken ground, the little triangle north up by 70 hasn't, the rental homes.
Wait till next-
Yeah, it sounds like they're coming.
Yeah, but I mean, but it's been a
Bring your
long time
lunch.
since those got approved.
Well,
So what's taking so long there?
construction plans and then utility coordination. There's been some major infrastructure coordination that's had to happen, and then it does take time from when you get from zoning to your actual construction plans being able to get there moving, so.
Well, it'll be interesting once they get to that point, because I mean, Rock Ridge, once they started, man, they've just been going like gangbusters there.
I think you'll see the same.
And,
Yeah, Parkview's been pretty good.
Yeah,
yeah, Parkview's finally, after they, after they finally connect to the sewer.
so I think this summer, we're expecting quite a bit of activity. And that already just kind of thinking forward to, we have an internal, in-house building commissioner now. Probably within a year, gonna need another inspector, just to keep up with everything that's going on, so. So, yeah. The next thing we have for you guys is, we wanna just talk a little bit about, the new permit software and, digital packets a little bit, and just kind of what some of the things are we've been doing, where we're kind of trying to head, and also trying to make things as easy as possible for you guys. We had our first, so this, your May projects are the first projects that we're using our new software for. We have one project that's completely digital, kind of our guinea pig, if you will, for submitting and kind of working through the process. And then we're using the system for all the other projects. So by June, we ourselves will have everything electronically and we will not have paper files anymore. So we've been doing some improvements on the website to get all the documents online so that when public notice letters go out, there can be a QR code. You can go straight to the website any time of day to see the information, and just be more transparent so that people don't have to come into the office. And then also working through better communication in those letters so people can understand what, was being proposed and what these letters mean. And that, so I'm really gonna turn it over at this point to Nikki and Hannah. They've been handling this part, since I can't even handle a keyboard. And then they'll kind of walk you through some of the things that they've been working on and just kind of get some feedback and, for your May packets, maybe try some things out and just kind of see where we go. Still be able to get paper in May. And then after that, it's kind of up in the air when we're gonna kind of.
So we will get paper in May.
You can still have paper in May.
They're allowed to have paper,
Yeah.
okay.
After that, we're.
So I was starting to save my money to go to the print shop.
Well, and so one of the things we've been trying to talk through is, part of it is just without us having paper reproducing, because the plans that will get uploaded will be like full size. So trying to print that on paper is gonna be really difficult, for us. And that, so one of the things we've talked about is, maybe we get you guys tablets, you can zoom in and make notes on them and things like that, so you still have a way to do that. It's just device driven versus paper driven and stuff, so.
See, that's my concern, because, I mean, you know me, I have my paper and I put all my notes. You know, this paragraph, a question about here or whatever. If I can do that on an electronic version, that's okay. But I mean, I don't wanna have to sit there with, mine and say, okay, on page 3, paragraph 6.
Right.
Having two separate things.
Yeah.
Even if I have to bring my laptop or something, that's
So is the
okay.
town gonna buy us a laptop, is that it?
Maybe,
Or a. Yeah,
maybe.
But I guess I'm asking, I was saying, I really need something that I can annotate the documentation. Without having to have a separate document
Yeah.
to do that,
Yeah.
that's all, a
Yep.
separate way to do it.
No, we hear you, and so that's one of the reasons why we figured this is a good opportunity for us to kind of show you some of the things we're doing and where we're at, and, some of the ideas we have, and then, we'll work through it together to make sure you guys have what you need. We're not gonna,
Cause remember,
Leave
these are
behind
young
that.
folks, us old folks, we're not used to.
Very good.
I mean, I still have trouble using my phone.
Hey, I learned how to use a measuring tool on Adobe.
Oh, I have
Told
one
me
that
you
says
can
fill
do-
this out, and then they send you a code. Well, how do I get that code and fill it in? I don't know how to do that on the phone.
So,
That I know,
Maybe you can show me.
that one I know.
The doctor's office wants me to do that, but I can't see both at the same time.
yeah.
Good.
Magic?
Yep, whatever, you guys see tag team.
Sure, I can talk a little bit about, basically what we're doing on the document side of things and how we're going to kind of like digitize your packets. So we've had some issues with SharePoint in the past with Microsoft authentication. It's a little weird, it's a little wonky. So instead of trying to move towards using our website, we have a document center on the website, and you guys can actually log in. I've made you all accounts on the website, so you can log in and see a separate private folder for plan commission packets. It's just a simple password. It's a one password. You can change it, just your email, password, you log in. You can see all of the documents that are in there. You can print documents from there yourselves if you want to, and we can still print things. I've also prepared handy how-tos. And there's even a little video I made, and you can scan the QR code or look at the link, and you can figure out how to do it from there, and I can also show you. So that's just one little aspect of, we can try that out, see if we like it. If you guys don't like it, if we prefer a different way, I'm totally up to changing it to what that suits your guys' standards and what's going to work for you, because ultimately it's for you guys, so whatever works for you or whatever you guys would like to see, I can try and make happen to the best of my ability.
So we should be able to access it from the town website.
Yes, and you can actually access it right now, so I'll go ahead and give you guys all of these. I also have a little slip that has your passwords, they're all the exact same password. You can change them too, but it is the email that we use to send out, so whatever email you get your emails from Christine or me, that's the email that's used. So Anna and Ed, it would be your Cumberland email, Bernadette, Ted, Patrick, it's the emails that you guys have signed up with Town of Cumberland. Those, if you have a different email that you would rather it go to, just let me know, so, because I have to change that on the back end for me. So that's pretty much it for at least like the document center part. I can run through it with you guys personally if you want me to. It's really just up to you. It's a lot simpler than SharePoint. There is no authentication.
So
No
it sounded like
anything.
that when you sent the thing out for us. Where I could access, because the first thing I couldn't access, but then you sent something out that gave me access to, I think,
Yeah, I don't know.
yeah.
how that worked.
No, that was still share, yeah, that was still
Okay.
share.
I think it was the way.
And so that's why
Okay, yeah.
she's supposed to try
I
it.
couldn't get into it,
Yeah.
and you sent something, and then I could get into that, so.
I could run through it. I don't want to get up and mess with the Zoom thing right now and log in. But I can, after the meeting, I can kind of show you guys what it looks like on the big screen and we can just do a quick look at it. It's much simpler. I promise you that.
Just so everybody knows, I have to leave in like 5 minutes, so I just don't wanna be rude and get up and walk out. So just keep going and I'll figure out later on.
Roll your chair back and leave us.
Yeah.
And I'll just piggyback off of that, we're on the planning and on the website, we've created a map of projects. And this is kind of more for the public facing side, but it's gonna have pertinent information that you guys get. It's just a matter of like, not overwhelming, you know, when submittals come, how many files and how many different pages, so it's. Clearly always available to the public, they can always get the more detailed information, but it's more to give them a summary and like. Lansing Woods, today, it gets you to the document center. You guys will have a login as well, but there's documents within here that should hopefully like have a project summary now, project location, just to be more transparent and so people can basically know what project's going on where and how they can get involved and have hyperlinks to the Zoom if they want to watch it, that sort of thing. So if you want to start looking ahead at what's gonna be on next plan commission, you can always go to this map. A lot of the detailed information will not be available until you typically get your packets, because we wait for that second submittal, review comments, that sort of thing. But some basic information will be available on the website for the public, general public as well, so.
Do you have an idea of what percentage of residents in Cumberland actually access
So I was-
our sites?
I was wondering that.
I can always check the Google Analytics for it, so if you want, I can prepare that for you.
I just,
I'm curious.
you know,
Yeah.
5%, 10%, you know, 20% of the people, I mean.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're pretty good, we look at the, you know, the data kind of every month or two, and I mean, I think there's more activity than we would.
Like some of the stuff It's sent out, I'll put a link
Yeah.
to our Facebook page for our neighborhood.
Hmm.
And I don't know how many people actually see that or not, you know, I have no idea.
And I think the idea is to continue to drive people to the website for the information, so, you know, public notices moving toward having a QR code on the notice, so when you get one of those letters, you can just use the QR code, and it'll take you to the website and instantly see what's being proposed. And that instead of getting it on Saturday and having to wait until Tuesday, because Monday was a holiday and things like that, this way people will have access instantaneous
And
to
if it's,
information.
That will-
get the public to know it's there and.
Yeah,
You know,
so, yeah, so the letters and just, yeah, it'll be
you
continued.
know, you've had 30 people here, I mean, how many actually knew it was even there before they got here?
A lot of it too, we're working on driving traffic in a lot of different ways, so on the utility bill now, we now have a QR code on the utility bill that goes to a link tree, which is just a list of links that people can click on. It has our town events. It's also being actively updated with any active planning cases that we might have as well. So when we make posts and things like that, especially on Instagram where you cannot post links on that website that actually click and go to the next page, you can just say, look at the link tree, and we can actually analyze the data on the link tree as well and see like who's clicking on what and how many times those have been clicked on. As for the planning and development page, it's out of our total website population, it's about a 2% total. But once again, that's split between like a lot of people are getting on for utility billing. We recently had our history walking tour, so that's taking
Yeah,
up
that was
a-
cool, by the way. I like that. That was really cool.
So it's split a lot too, so event season, most of the time events will be the number one thing that our residents go towards. But as we've been updating the planning and development page, it's actually popped up, so it's probably like the 7th highest page out of all the pages we have on the website, which is pretty high, all things considered.
And I think that'll continue as we make it more user friendly and transparent, you'll have more and more traffic.
And as the population gets younger in our neighborhoods.
Yeah.
Yeah, and obviously, you know, people will still be able to come in and ask us questions. We won't have the blue folder to pull out for them, but we can pull out our computers, we can use the large screens and pull things up and, you know, answer questions and things.
Any guest computer that they can sit down at in somewhere.
Yeah, yeah, we've talked about at some point, we'd like to have a kiosk in the lobby. So you could go there and do some basic things and work some things out.
Farm.
So. So,
Well, thank you.
yeah.
Do we have anything else since we have a member that needs to leave? So,
So you're gonna send us an email, right? The password.
she's gonna
Yes,
give us-
I actually have physical copy
Oh.
of everything.
Yeah.
Get your kid to play like that.
That's awesome. Okay. We usually can figure things out pretty well.
That and then a little password slip. If you lose that, don't worry, we can always change your password.
Okay,
Okay. They're old.
all right, thank you. I'll see you guys.
Hey,
Thanks, Eric.
So,
all right, so we're done?
Yep.
Okay, entertain a motion, we adjourn
Okay.
Sorry, I'm putting everyone on.
then.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Hey, we're adjourned. Shut off the machine.
You got it, Christine? Maybe. You can just hit the end button right there.